Thank you, Senator Bozeman. So here's how we're going to proceed. We're going to have one more round of questions for interested members of the committee. That's going to be 5-minute rounds. Mr. Chairman, you and I have discussed in your appearances before the Banking and Housing Committee my belief that investors and the public have a right to know when corporations are taking big risks through the use of offshore tax havens. Jurisdictions around the world, especially Australia and the European Union, are moving in this direction, giving their investors the information they need to assess the tax risks of their portfolios, including offshore tax havens. I've introduced legislation, the Disclosure of Tax Havens and Offshore Shoring Act. Right now, as you know, the Financial Accounting Standards Board is looking at this. I'm going to submit some questions for the record on this subject for you to take a look at so we can hopefully move forward. I do want to ask you a question about proxy advisors, and I clearly have a difference of opinion from my colleague, the ranking member, on this. But tell me where I'm wrong in this logic. I'm T. Rowe Price, or I'm another company. I choose to hire with my own money proxy advisors to give me guidance and advice on how I should proceed on different proxy votes. I use the example of T. Rowe Price. They're a Maryland-based company, and they both provide advice and they also pay proxy advisors for advice in some cases. So it seems to me that for those of us who do believe in a market system and for the ability of private parties to make choices of their own within the law, that trying by government fiat to stop a private entity from hiring a proxy advisor to make recommendations on decisions seems kind of in violation of market principles and freedom of choice. What do you think?
The investors, in this case, in your hypothetical T. Rowe Price, a Maryland firm, but it doesn't matter what state they're in, but that investor has, as an investment advisor, a fiduciary duty to their ultimate investors. And that fiduciary duty, they have to decide as part of that fiduciary duty how to vote on a board of directors, maybe on mergers, and maybe on other matters before them. It tends to come in a short season in the spring, and so there has developed in the last 20 to 30 years these outside advisory firms that firms like you just mentioned, but other investment advisors turn to. But it's still ultimately, in your hypothetical, T. Rowe Price's fiduciary obligation to decide whether they support or object to whatever the vote is. In terms of the rulemaking that we did, we had a number of people that came into us. It was early in my tenure that said that they thought that we should take this up, and we took the time to put it out to notice and comment. We got comments back, and based upon the record and the Commission's consideration of it, we finalized some changes as our predecessor had made other changes.
Right, but don't you think that any company should be able to, with their own money, pay somebody for proxy advice, which they can take or leave, without anyone trying to pass a law or regulation to prevent them from using their own money in that way?
Yeah, I would broaden it. Investment advisors, small and large, use outsourcing. They hire others for their technology. They hire others for pricing services. They hire others for proxy advice. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of things that they use outside advisors, and we're neutral to that. We allow that. They still retain their fiduciary obligations and all of their other obligations that an investment advisor is safeguarding the assets that we were talking about earlier. But the use of outsourcing is a robust part of our economy, not just for investment advisors. And at least at the SEC, there's no, that's facilitated, it promotes efficiency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.